Hello, everybody. Welcome to our second DenDisign webinar. Today, we will be talking about the new tools of our software, of our latest version that we've launched. It will be held in English, of course, but our next webinar, where we will be showing all the tools together and designing a case, we'll be hosting it in Spanish for all our Spanish speakers. And if you did miss our first webinar, we will be leaving the YouTube link in the chat so you can go and see that. Because today we will be talking about all those new tools and the latest features that we have in our software. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the chat. After the webinar is over, I will be answering all your questions. So let's start. Okay, great. So we are on to our first step, which is the STL load. We already saw this. So once we've uploaded our STLs and we know that these are the ones we like, we are going to go ahead and go on to the next step. Since our webinar is in English, I will be changing the language. Amazing. So we already saw this, but let's go over it a bit. And we're going to go on to our first tool, which is the STL positioning. Just real quick, just orientate the models correctly. The midline and the occlusal plane. Okay. We can also modify the occlusion of our model. If we wanted to do lower arch, upper arch, we can modify the occlusion. But I'm going to go ahead and go on to our smoothing tool. It takes just a few seconds because every time you move on to a next tool, it automatically saves all the changes. So if I wanted to smooth anything out, I can definitely do that. I have my brush diameter and I have my brush force. So I can just go ahead and smooth out, okay? Anything I want to smooth out. For example, here, this is great for if I have any leftovers of attachments, I can just modify and smooth out my mesh, okay? The other tool that we showed on our last webinar was the gum extrusion, okay? So I'm just going to show that real quick because we already went over this. We have two planes, the red plane and the green plane. The red plane is the cutting and the green plane is the gum extrusion or the height we want to give our model. So I'm just going to go ahead and let's say I want to cut my model there and then give it just a bit of extrusion. And I can also select if I want a hollow interior or not. In this case, I do want a hollow interior because that is just going to save me so much material once we're printing out the model. So I'm going to go ahead and calculate. And there I have it. You have it in a matter of seconds. Okay, we can also do it with our lower arch. I just go ahead and select where I want to cut my model. I can also orientate the plane, for example, there, and just go ahead and select the height I want to give it. Let's say a little bit less. Perfect. And now I'm going to calculate. So all these three tools we already saw before. So now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you the new tools. We have the mesh removal, the removing the floating areas, and inflate and deflate the mesh. So let's start with the mesh removal. In this case, we already have our models with a base, so I will not want to be removing any part of the mesh. But if I wanted to, I'm just going to show you. I select the diameter of my brush, and then with clicking Shift and the left button of my mouse, I can just select what I want to remove of my mesh. Okay, and then I say remove, and it'll remove the part of the mesh I selected. Okay, this is when we have that extra material from the scanning. We can just select those extra parts and remove them. Okay, I'm just going to click reset. If you accidentally remove more than you wanted to, there's no problem. By clicking reset, you can automatically go back to how it was. Okay, let's go on to our next tool, which is the removing the floating parts. If I removed part of my mesh and then I still have some leftover parts floating around, this is an automatic analysis, and it will remove all the floating parts. I will not be doing it because I do not have any floating parts, but you have that option also. And lastly, our other new tool for the addition of our STLs, we have the inflate and deflate. For example, if my client or my doctor scanned the STL too low and did not leave any gum, right? We could definitely add some gum, add some part of the mesh that we don't have. For example, if I wanted to add some here by clicking Shift, I can just add part of my mesh. Okay, I can add to anything I want to add. Either it's there or either it's up here. Anywhere you want to add some material, you can definitely do that with the inflate. Okay, I can also change my brush diameter and my brush force, so I can add as much material as I want. Okay, and also if I wanted to remove some material or delete it, I can just go on to my deflate tool and modify that. Okay, as I said, I don't want to modify anything of mine, so I'm just going to click reset. But just so you know that you have those tools. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go on to our next step, which would be the teeth segmentation. We've added a new feature that we didn't have before, and it will be very interesting for some cases. I will show you. But as we already said in our last webinar, we have the automatic detection for teeth segmentation. And just with one click, in a few seconds, you have a very precise segmentation. And we also have the manual segmentation that if we have to adjust anything, we can definitely do that. So for example, here, I'm going to have to color in my third molars, just clicking Shift and changing the brush diameter. I am going to quickly fill out this tooth. Perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the other one and fill out that one too. So the new feature I was telling you about is that we've included the primary dentition into our occlusogram. So as you can see, if you see the numbering, we have all permanent dentition in the upper and lower jaw. If I have, for example, all primary dentition, or if I have one primary tooth still in mouth, I just go ahead and click on any tooth. For example, let's say number 16 is not a 16, but it is a 56. I can just click on the 16, change numbering, primary dentition, and I can do a 55. Okay, so I click accept, and now it is a 55. If I want to change it again, no problem. I just click on the number, change number, and I'm going to put it back to a 16. Okay, if I wanted to change all my teeth, no worries. I just go to primary dentition and change them all. In this case, we're working with permanent, so I'm just going to leave the number as it is. So that is a very special tool for when we have any cases with kids and primary dentition. So once my segmentation is perfect, I'm going to go ahead and click next and go on to our fourth step, which is the roots and axes. We already saw this in our last webinar, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on the automatic calculation, and we're going to see how it redirects the position of our roots to make them more adjusted to the crown of the tooth. So this takes a few seconds. Perfect. Okay, it is also pretty precise. As just going to show you quickly, as I said, if we wanted to modify something manually, we could definitely do that. Okay. Example, if I wanted to modify something here, I could do, but this is pretty good. So I'm just going to go ahead and click next. Okay. And we are on to our treatment plan. This is our fifth step. So I will be showing you some of the other new tools that we've done to the treatment plan. Okay. As we see, we have the information button where we have the chat. We have a new feature on the request of the treatment. We have the questions, if we have a step limit, if the doctor or the client wants you to distalize, elastic use, extraction of third molars, if you want micro screws or mini implants. And they also have a text box so they can type in what they want. As always, the files and the list of changes that the client wants. So, just to start, we already saw the other tools, so I will just be talking about the new tools. In this case, I have a class 2 on the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and extract. I'm going to remove my third molar. I want to extract it in all the steps. And I'm going to go ahead and just to show you the new tool, I'm going to go ahead and extract also number 14. So if I extract number 14, I want to do a closure of this extraction gap with some distalization and also mesialization, some combined movements. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and with my multiplane, start moving around. I will go ahead and move this around. As I said, this is a very simple, not very curated treatment. Of course, I would be paying much more attention to detail, but this is just a webinar to show you the new tools. We will be doing some webinars with designing some cases, class 3, some cases of class 2. We will also be showing complex cases. Okay, so let's say this is kind of what I want. Of course, this is nowhere near how it would be planned, but it's just to show you a bit. Remember that we also could select various teeth and move them at the same time. So if you want to save some time in the treatment plan, we can also do it that way. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of put this here. And let's say that is perfect. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do some mesialization so I can close that gap. Okay, remember this is very important to have the interdental distances open when designing so I can see where I have contacts. Okay, I want to try to get as little IPR possible. So I'm just going to correct here real quick my my contacts. Okay, just do this to expand a bit so I can delete some contacts, and then here I will just distalize a bit because this contact will become IPR. So I'm gonna make sure I don't have that much. Okay, for example, I can do some expansion here. So I don't have to have all that IPR. Okay, perfect. I think that's good. That's good enough. It's not perfect, but it's good. So let's go ahead and calculate my in-between steps. I'm just going to press 0, Control 1. I'm going to make a small modification here. And I'm going to go ahead and click automatic step calculation. Perfect. Now, as I see, all my movements are done at the same time. So I'm just going to go to my evolution panel and I'm going to stage my treatment. I'm going to add some steps. I'm just going to keep adding steps. Okay, perfect. Now, what do I want to move before? I want my 13 to be moving first, then 12 could go along, 11, and then these can go after, just to make sure I'm correcting my midline also. Great. And then I want, after my canine is in place, I'm going to start moving, or almost at its place. I'm going to start moving. I'm going to start doing the mesialization. So let's go ahead and do kind of a 50% technique. So perfect. Let's go ahead. This. Okay, great. Let's calculate some IPR. Okay, that's better. That's better. Let's see. Perfect. Now I'm going to close this and see what my treatment looks like. Okay, great. And then I start my visualization. We can, of course, stage it more, but as this is just to show you, that's how we're going to leave it. Okay. So now the new tool I wanted to show you was the pontics. So I'm going to go ahead and go in aligner 1. And we have our new tool here. It says pontics. Okay, I'm going to select the tooth I want to put as a pontic, which is my tooth 14, the extraction I did previously. So I'm going to go ahead and close here. And now I have to modify my pontic to where I want. We can change the shape, we can change the tip, we can change the torque, we can change the height, we can change the thickness. Okay, we can make it the perfect size for what we needed. Can go ahead and do this a bit. Okay, how is that looking? Good. Great. Now I don't want it to have occlusion, so okay, let's maybe bring it up a bit. Perfect. Now maybe if it's touching a bit on this side, let me make it a bit smaller and place it right here. Okay, great. So there I have my pontic. If I wanted to make it a little bit thicker, I can, but that seems pretty good, right? So let me go on step 0. This is my initial step. I do my extraction, and then I have my pontic. And as I go, oops, sorry, I just went to the last step. As I go on in the treatment, my pontic follows my movements of my upper arch and the contrary arch also, until it gets really thin and the space closes. Now, at some point, the pontic it becomes too thin, and I do not want to print that out because I might have some issues printing. So at some point, I can remove my pontic. If it's no use anymore, if I can't even color it in, then I am just going to remove my pontic when my space is more closed. Okay, so let's go ahead and on aligner 12, I'm going to remove it. So I just click on the pontic with my right click. I say remove pontic, and it's going to ask me if I want to remove my pontic in all the steps. If I want to delete it from the current step to the last, or from the current step to the beginning. So I would like to delete it from this current step to the last step because since my space is already closing up, I don't want my pontic anymore. So as you can see, on 11 I have it, and on 12 I don't, and the space just closes up. Okay, so that is a very useful tool. We can put as many pontics as we want. We can put them in both arches. We can modify where we want them, the shape, how we want them, and so many other things. Okay, there's also a new feature we added to the treatment plan, which is smoothing out the crowns of our teeth once we're in the treatment plan, because we used to only have it before the treatment in the STL edition step, but now we have it in the treatment plan. So let's say I wanted to smooth anything out. If, for example, I see some of the segmentation, it's not as smooth, or I want to modify that, I just have to select the tooth I want to modify in. For example, let's do 24. And then by just clicking shift, okay, I can modify. Second, brush there under and brush force. Let me see, do I got it? No, let me refresh real quick. Sorry, give me a sec. I'm just gonna refresh real quick. Just note, I also said this in the last webinar, but if you, by any chance, close the window or the server or anything, it automatically saves, so you won't lose any of the work you've done. Okay, so let me go ahead and here. Okay, this is how we want it. Perfect. Great. Okay, let's go ahead and show you. Let's put some attachments. I always show how I put some attachments with the automatic calculation, but in this step, in this webinar, I will show you how I personally select them. Okay, if I know I'm going to have a combined movement of distalization and mesialization in the same quadrant, I'm going to go ahead and choose the rectangular vertical attachments because I think that helps with the root control and the tip to avoid any movements we don't want, any inclinations in our roots. Okay, I will also add, here, and just make one movement here in the last. Okay, there we go. Let's say I wanted to add a cutout for a button. If I'm going to close my space and I'm going to put a mini screw, I just go on tabs, I select my tooth, and I can put my cutout. And as I was going to show you, if I wanted to smooth anything out, I just go onto my smoothing section, I select the tooth I want to smooth out, and then with Control, I can smooth out my crowns. I can definitely add more force to that. Okay, if I want to maybe make my crowns better, I just can select the tooth. If you see, if you're not on the tooth you selected, you cannot smooth out anything else. Okay, you just smooth out what you have selected. So if I want to smooth out another crown, I have to go to that one in the odontogram. Okay, so I have my attachments, I have my cutouts, I have my pontic. Okay, perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and okay, great. I'm going to go ahead to the final step. And these tools I already showed. Remember, we have the labeling. If I wanted to label a tooth, okay, I just added in all the steps and it'll be showing, okay, in all the steps, the labeling of each aligner. I can also modify. Okay. Perfect. Okay, great. I can also put it in lingual and buccal. I also have the blockouts. We already saw these in our last webinar. So don't worry if you missed our last webinar. As I said in the beginning, we will be adding the link of the last YouTube, and you will be able to see all these tools that I talked to you about before. We also have the fixture that we already also showed you, but you will find all this information in our previous webinar. So that's it for today. Those are the new features and new tools that we had to show you. We will be doing another webinar soon. Our next webinar would be in Spanish, and we will be planning a whole case, either a class 2 or a class 3, so you can see how smoothly the software runs and all the new features combined together in just one webinar. So stay tuned, and next week we will be letting you know in our social media. You'll see it on Instagram, you'll see it on LinkedIn, when our next webinar is going to be. So just remember to register, and see you next week. If you have any questions, please ask anything if you have any doubts. Perfect. We already in our chat, we left the last link of our previous webinar. So I see we have no questions, but no worries. If you want to write in the chat any questions, any doubts, please don't hesitate. I will be replying. So thank you very much. Bye.